We had another huge night of 2020 NHL playoff action to discuss today, including the Montreal Canadiens winning again, putting the Penguins on the brink of elimination, and the Oilers also are facing elimination after dropping another game to the Hawks. We'll recap all of yesterday's action coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we had lots of great NHL action again yesterday with all kinds of great hockey, some round-robin games and some more qualifying round games played as well. Of course, every day is busy right now until we get through this qualifying round. Lots of hockey, about 5 to 6 games every single day. Certainly great to see after having such a long stretch of time with no hockey. Now, we did have a couple of round-robin games yesterday, including the Tampa Bay Lightning beating the Boston Bruins by a 3-2 score. The Bruins did have Tuukka Rask back in the net. Tampa was still without Steven Stamkos. The Bruins offense is really struggling. I'm not sure what's going on there with Boston, but they're not having a good time so far, and with the losses that they've made, there's no way they can be the top seed in the Eastern Conference now, even though they were well on pace to be that before the NHL season was paused. They've struggled coming back here, and things are not looking good for Boston. They're likely going to end up with either being number 3 or number 4 in the East, which is really, if they get things going, a scary proposition for the team that's going to be facing them, but at the same time, going to mean that they're probably facing a stronger opponent. So we'll see, but Tampa Bay beats Boston in that game. Also saw the Avalanche shut out the Dallas Stars 4-0. The Avalanche put 40 shots on net. They had lots of secondary scoring. Good goaltending on their end as well. Both goalies for the Avalanche have been solid so far since the NHL's return. The Avalanche get goals from guys like Burakovsky as well as Donskoy, which is nice to see. More than just the McKinnon line scoring. Like I said, they had lots of offense on the go with 40 shots. Now, the Dallas Stars were without Ben Bishop. Hudobin had to play the game. He was deemed unfit to play. And they were also without John Klingberg on defense as well. So clearly, some cause for concern, I guess, for Dallas fans. But I really thought all along the Avalanche would likely be the top team in the West. And right now, they're well on track to go ahead and do that. So they're looking really good so far. They also had a goal from Cale Makar as well. So Avalanche are rolling and ready to go here, trying to grab the top seed in the West and get ready for the next round. Now, in the qualifying round matchups, we had the Arizona Coyotes defeat the Nashville Predators with a 4-1 score. Impressive outing by the Coyotes. Great goaltending from Darcy Kuemper. Antti Raanta still unfit to play. They probably would have given him some playing time here if he was able to go, but he has not been able to. They've been relying on Kuemper a lot, which they did during the regular season as well, so it's not a huge surprise. Of course, Nashville had won Game 2 to tie things up, and now the Preds face elimination after dropping another one here to the Coyotes. They got some goal scoring from guys like Connor Garland, and Taylor Hall scored on a power play as well. Nashville just could not buy a goal past Kuemper after the first one they got from Victor Arvidsson, and just an overall pretty solid defensive game from the Coyotes standpoint. And well, I guess we'll see what happens here. I know a lot of us picked Nashville to win this series, but right now the Coyotes are well on pace to take it. So we'll see if the Preds can survive and force a fifth and deciding game. The Florida Panthers were able to stave off elimination as well in their game with the New York Islanders. They were down 2-0 facing elimination. Panthers were able to hold off the Islanders with a 3-2 victory to bring it to a 2-1 series. Obviously, the Panthers have to win 3 straight to be able to win and move on to the round of 16, which is going to be a daunting task. The Islanders are a pretty solid defensive team. It was nice to see the Panthers got better goaltending out of Sergei Bobrovsky, but it was a pretty low-scoring affair on both sides. Only had 22 shots on goal, which is, like I said, relatively low. Not a ton of chances, but the Islanders did have a couple of decent goals on Bobrovsky. The Panthers had a couple of power play goals, which was good to see their special teams playing better. So we'll see what happens here if the Panthers can remain alive in this series. More than likely in the next game, we have another matchup of Varlamov versus Bobrovsky, but we'll see what happens. But Florida's got a daunting task ahead of them here. We'll see what they can do in game number 4. Now, the Edmonton Oilers dropped a game last night to the Chicago Blackhawks after some late game heroics from Jonathan Taves. Early going was fairly even keel. Defenseman Olli Maatta scored an early goal for Chicago, got him off on the right foot. Then we had a couple of goals from Leon Draisaitl, a goal from Connor McDavid, and the Oilers were heading into the third period with a 3-2 lead. But things changed in the third period. They were not able to get any extra insurance. A youngster for the Hawks, Matthew Highmore, scored with around 6 minutes or so left in the third period to tie things up. Obviously, that's a major big-time goal for Highmore, making his debut in the 2020 playoffs this year. And then Jonathan Taves, again, has been an Oiler crusher in this series so far, scored with about a minute and a half to go. Playoff Jonathan Taves is not somebody you want to mess with right now. He's been on fire this entire series, and certainly if the Oilers do not prevail and the Hawks advance, obviously we can give a lot of the credit to Jonathan Taves. Duncan Keith, I thought, has been pretty solid, logging a lot of minutes as well. He was on the ice a lot near the end of regulation time. It was a big part of it as well. I mean, the Hawks are looking surprisingly good right now, so we'll see if they can upset the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, they've had McDavid and Draisaitl playing well, but they didn't get that secondary scoring in this game like they did in Game 2, and that obviously was a bit of a difference. It'll be interesting to see if head coach Dave Tippett remains with Mikko Koskinen in the net or goes back to Mike Smith. I mean, Koskinen certainly wasn't bad, but Smith really, I think we could say, probably wasn't great as well in the first game. So it's interesting to see if there's any change in that regard or not. Obviously, Koskinen now has a win and a loss. This is a do-or-die game, so I would imagine he'll stick with Koskinen, but it'd be interesting to see how the coach makes adjustments heading into Game 4. I don't think many of us really thought the Oilers were going to be facing elimination this early into this 2014 playoff format. I know many of us that have done predictions have predicted the Edmonton Oilers to beat the Blackhawks, but things are not looking good. The Hawks have been surprisingly strong so far, and we'll see. I mean, a lot of these teams in the play-in round are doing better than we predicted. Arizona's another one, like Chicago, who could end up being lower seeds advancing in the Western Conference. So we'll see what happens in game number 4. And the one of the more exciting games of yesterday's action, the Montreal Canadiens upset the Pittsburgh Penguins, another team who's on the brink here. The high-powered Penguins had a decent game, but overall could not get the job done. Carey Price again was pretty solid. An early goal from Shea Weber got things off to the right track for Montreal, but then Pittsburgh came back and scored 3 consecutive goals to take a 3-1 lead early into the second period. But the Habs bounced back, and mid to late second period got a couple of goals from Jonathan Drouin and Paul Byron to tie things up. And then in the third period, we had a really nice goal from defenseman Jeff Petrie, his second game winner of the series. It was a bank shot, which kind of was an awkward angle, went off of Murray from his neck head area and into the net. He certainly picked his spot perfectly and got the puck in for the winning goal. Petrie's been an excellent player so far for the Habs in this series. Very impressive. You can see how reliable he is and just how important he is to the blue line in Montreal. At times we've seen Max Domi have an elevated role as well. We saw youngster Jake Evans get back into the lineup but then be injured early on. So the Habs were down a forward, so they had to shake things up a little bit. Like I said, Domi had more of an opportunity, played a little bit better in the power play. But some other players, even like a Thomas Tatar, I think still has another gear to find. And we'll see what Montreal can do. Can they close out the Pittsburgh Penguins and move on to the round of 16? That would mean that the Pittsburgh Penguins would then go into the draft lottery, and the Edmonton Oilers, who are also high-powered offense, would also go in the draft lottery. If they don't come back to beat Chicago, it would almost seem unfair if either of those two teams won the draft lottery and the right to draft Alexis Lafreniere. Of course, as we know, the Oilers have had several number 1 picks overall. The Penguins haven't had one in a while, but they've been such a strong team, winning 3 cups over the last decade or more, that really not sure that they really need them after all the offensive players they have on their roster. But it is what it is. That's the rules this year. Things are different, and we could very well have a team who was having an excellent regular season with a high-powered offense get the rights to draft the top prospect in this year's 2020 NHL Draft. So that is your recap and review for all of the games from yesterday. Of course, the NHL action has already started in today's games here as I record this video, so there'll be plenty more to discuss. Certainly stay tuned for more recaps here, and let me know your thoughts on all the action down below in the comments, and who do you think is going to win these series. We're now getting further along here. It's not going to be all that far before we find out who's going to be moving on, who's going home, and which teams are going into the draft lottery. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content. And give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.